Welcome to Live from the Batcave. I'm your host, Taylor Wood, and today on our show we'll be discussing the history of the Dark Knight himself, the Batman. Enter the golden age of comics. Our caped crusader first makes his way onto the scene in Detective Comics issue number 27 in May of 1939. The Case of the Chemical Syndicate was written by Bill Finger and drawn by Bob Kane, who we all know as the creator of Batman. In this comic, Batman is shown driving an ordinary red sedan on his nightly escapades. It isn't until Batman issue number 5 of spring 1941 that we would see the illustrious Batmobile with its striking bat-headed battering ram. And unlike many comics, the first appearance of Batman was not an origin story. It actually wasn't until 6 months later in Detective Comics issue number 33 that they would shed light on Batman's tragic origin story. Like many other characters in comics and cinema, Batman has had several reimaginings by many different writers. But the original and probably the most notable origin story of Batman was when young Bruce witnessed a mugger brutally murder his parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, as they were walking home from the theater one evening. At the mere age of 14, Bruce embarked on the journey that took him to every continent as he sought to learn all the skills that he would need to keep his vow. He studied criminology, forensics, and criminal psychology. He learned from manhunters and martial artists, mastering every fighting style. In time, Bruce forged himself into a living weapon to wage war on crime and injustice. Upon his return to Gotham, Bruce stalked street thugs as a plainclothes vigilante. Beaten by the very people he had intended to protect, he barely survived his first night out. As he sat bleeding in the study at Wayne Manor, Bruce knew that he had to first strike fear in the hearts of his foes. Just then, a bat crashed through the study window, giving Bruce the inspiration he needed. Establishing a secret headquarters in the caves beneath his mansion, Bruce created his new persona and became Batman, the Dark Knight to protect Gotham and its citizens from vice and villainy. Batman became an urban legend, a cautionary tale that sent shivers through the city's underworld. This Caped Crusader found a friend in Captain James Gordon, a Gotham cop who didn't approve of Batman's methods, but appreciated the results of his nightly crime fighting. Batman's rogues gallery grew to include a host of bizarre criminals such as the Joker, Catwoman, Two-Face, and the Penguin. As his enemies increased, help arrived in the form of another young boy left parentless by brutal crime. Dick Grayson was a young acrobat in the Haley Circus alongside his mother and father. He was left orphaned after a performance in which Boss Zuko sabotaged the Grayson rig. Bruce was a part of the audience that witnessed this horrific event. Bruce developed empathy and kinship for the young boy and took him under his wing, no pun intended. He later would become Batman's trusty sidekick, Robin, the boy wonder, who we meet in Detective Comics issue number 38. As much as I would love to continue to discuss the boy wonder Dick Grayson, as he is one of my favorite characters in the Batman universe, I'm going to take a step back from him and continue with the Dark Knight. But stay tuned for part 2 of History of the Batman, where we will take a look back through the history of Robin. So in spring of 1940, Batman number 1 is published, while Detective Comics are still running Batman stories. In this comic, we are introduced to two of the most iconic Batman antagonists, the Joker and Catwoman, who was then referred to as the Cat. Batman used a machine gun in this issue, and it was after this that editor Whitney Ellsworth decreed that Batman would no longer kill or use a gun. As I previously stated, Detective Comics were still running Batman stories at this time, and it was in Detective Comics issue number 48 that they gave name to Batman's home of Gotham City. A couple years later, in 1942, Batman issue number 12, it is that they introduce us to the legendary Batcave. And I just have one final note before I wrap things up today. I really just wanted to communicate this with my listeners. The history of the Batman episodes are going to be a little different from my normal podcasts, because I'm using them to inform and educate those who haven't read these comics. As one of the world's most renowned and notable characters, I believe it is important for us to remember what molded Batman into what he is today. Other episodes will be less informative and more opinionated and lighthearted discussions on my favorite topics. That being said, I want to thank all of you for listening to my first show. And that's all for today on Live from the Batcave. Tune in next week as we delve into all things nerdy. Same bat time, same bat channel.